In a dusty barn outside Cedar Falls, Iowa, a woman found something that shouldn't exist. A pristine 1965 Ford Mustang with a price tag of just $600. But the real surprise wasn't the car. It was what came 3 days later, when the man who sold it to her showed up at her door with an envelope that would change everything she thought she knew about second chances. If stories about unexpected kindness and finding hope in the hardest moments speak to you, consider subscribing. It helps keep these stories alive. And let me know in the comments, where are you listening from today? Emma Walsh stared at the eviction notice taped to her apartment door, her hands trembling so badly she could barely get the key in the lock. 30 days. That's all she had left. The small apartment above the Cedar Falls hardware store had been her refuge for the past 8 months, ever since Michael died, and the medical bills had swallowed everything they'd saved. She dropped her bag on the kitchen table, where it landed next to a stack of envelopes she couldn't bring herself to open. Final notices, mostly. At 38 years old, Emma had become an expert at recognizing the different shades of urgency in collection letters. Her ancient Honda Civic had finally died yesterday, sputtering to a stop 3 blocks from school. Without transportation, she couldn't get to her teaching job at Riverside Elementary, 15 miles outside of town. Without her job, she couldn't pay rent. The spiral was tightening. She sat at the table and forced herself to do the math one more time. $4,000. That's what she needed to catch up. She had $620 in her checking account. Everything else was gone. Michael's life insurance had barely covered the funeral. As she reached for her laptop, her hand brushed against a folded newspaper from 3 weeks ago. Michael's handwriting circled a small classified ad: estate sale, classic cars, Thornton Farm, Saturday 8 a.m., 4 p.m. Michael had marked it the week before he passed, back when they'd still talked about the future. She remembered him saying something about always wanting to take her for a drive in a classic car. It had seemed impossible then. Now it felt like a message. Emma looked at the calendar. Tomorrow was Saturday. She didn't have a car, but she had a bicycle. What did she have to lose? The Thornton estate sat at the end of a long gravel driveway, flanked by ancient oak trees. Emma's legs burned from the 8-mile bike ride. She felt immediately out of place as expensive cars pulled up, restored trucks, luxury sedans. These were collectors, people with money. What was she doing here? She almost turned around, but then she remembered Michael's circle around that ad. The yard was crowded with tables displaying china and furniture. Everything was expensive. A set of dishes for $300. A vintage tractor for $15,000. Emma's stomach churned. These weren't prices for people like her. She was about to leave when she noticed a smaller barn in the back. The door was open, and she could see something red gleaming in the shadows. The moment she stepped inside, her breath stopped. There, sitting in a shaft of golden sunlight, was a 1965 Ford Mustang. Cherry red, chrome bumpers gleaming, white racing stripes down the center. It looked like it had just rolled off a showroom floor. Emma walked around it slowly, afraid to touch. And then she saw the price tag hanging from the rearview mirror. $600. She blinked. Read it again. Every other vehicle in the barn had price tags in the thousands, but this Mustang was marked at $600. It had to be a mistake. A man stood near the barn entrance, watching her. He was tall, probably in his early 50s, with salt and pepper hair and a weathered face. He wore expensive jeans and a button-down shirt that had seen better days. And there was something in his eyes. A deep, bone-tired sadness that Emma recognized. He walked toward her with measured steps. "That was my father's car." Emma pulled her hand back from the hood. "I'm sorry, I was just looking. It's beautiful." He nodded, his gaze moving from her to the car. "Are you interested in buying it?" She laughed nervously. "I couldn't possibly afford. The price tag must be wrong. $600? The price is firm." His tone left no room for negotiation. Emma stared at him. There was something happening here that she didn't understand. Why would anyone sell a car like this for $600? "I don't understand. What's wrong with it?" For the first time, something that might have been a smile touched his mouth, though it didn't reach his eyes. "It runs perfectly. My father maintained it like it was his child. The only thing wrong with it is that it's not mine anymore." The sadness in his voice was raw. "I'm Emma Walsh." He looked at her hand before taking it briefly. "Daniel Thornton. This was my father's estate." Was. Past tense. "I'm sorry for your loss." Daniel nodded once, then stepped back. "Are you buying the car or not?" Emma made a decision that felt both reckless and inevitable. She pulled her checkbook from her purse with shaking hands. "I'll take it." She wrote the check carefully. $600. Her signature looked small and uncertain. Daniel took the check and stared at it for a long moment, his jaw working. Then he looked up at her with something in his eyes that Emma couldn't name. "The title is in the glove compartment. Keys are in the ignition. It's yours." He turned and walked away quickly, his shoulders rigid. Emma stood alone with her new car, her heart pounding. As she slid into the driver's seat and turned the key, the engine purred to life. She pulled out slowly, carefully. In the rearview mirror, she saw Daniel Thornton standing in the driveway, perfectly still, watching her drive away. And the expression on his face was pure grief, like he'd just watched something precious disappear forever. By Sunday morning, Emma's hope had curdled into shame. She drove the Mustang to the Cedar Falls diner for breakfast. The moment she walked through the door, the diner went quiet. That noticeable drop in volume that happens when people suddenly become aware of someone's presence. Martha Sullivan, the owner, was pouring coffee. "Morning, Emma." Her tone was careful. "That's Daniel Thornton's car out front, isn't it? The red Mustang?" Emma's stomach dropped. "I bought it at his estate sale yesterday." "Why?" Martha exchanged glances with two women sitting nearby. "Honey, everyone in 3 counties knows that car. James Thornton bought it the day Daniel was born. It's been in their family for 52 years. I didn't know. He had it marked for $600. $600. One woman leaned forward. "Emma, collectors have been offering $50,000 for that car for years." The room spun. Emma gripped the counter. "That can't be right. Why would he?" "Because the Thorntons lost everything," another woman whispered. "Daniel's wife, Sarah, died 3 years ago. He tried to keep the business going, but grief destroyed his judgment. The company collapsed. That estate sale was court-ordered. Daniel's selling the farm and leaving town with nothing. That Mustang was the last piece of his father he had left." Emma felt sick. I didn't know." Daniel wouldn't say. Martha refilled her coffee gently. "But honey, that car was sacred to him. Everyone knew he'd never sell it, no matter how bad things got." Emma couldn't breathe. She'd been so focused on her own survival that she hadn't questioned why a car like that would be priced so low. She'd taken advantage of someone else's tragedy. "I have to return it," she said suddenly. "I have to find him." She threw money on the counter and ran out. The drive to the Thornton estate took 15 minutes. With every mile, Emma's guilt grew heavier. The estate looked different without the crowds. The white farmhouse stood lonely, windows dark. The barns were empty, and there, on the gate, was a sold sign. Emma's heart sank. The driveway was empty. No truck, no movement. She knocked on the front door anyway. No answer. She walked around back, peered in windows, called his name. Nothing. A neighbor emerged from the adjoining property. "You looking for Daniel Thornton?" "Yes. Do you know where he went?" The man shook his head. "Left this morning, early. Saw his truck pull out around dawn. Didn't say goodbye, didn't say where he was headed. Just gone." "Did he leave a forwarding address?" "Nope. Can't believe he actually sold James's car, though." The neighbor looked at the Mustang with recognition. "I need to return it to him," Emma said desperately. It wasn't right. "Ma'am, if Daniel sold you that car, he had his reasons. He's not a man who does things by accident." But Emma hadn't made her peace with it. That evening, she searched online. She found articles about Daniel, successful entrepreneur 5 years ago, then tragedy struck. His wife Sarah died in an accident. His business collapsed, estate sale, leaving Iowa. She found an old photo from 1965, young James Thornton leaning against a brand new red Mustang, holding a baby. The caption read, "James Thornton celebrates the birth of his son Daniel with a new 1965 Ford Mustang, purchased the same day." Emma closed her laptop and sat in the Mustang in her parking spot. She couldn't find Daniel to return the car. She couldn't afford to not have the car. But keeping it felt like theft. She was trapped. She sat there until the sun went down, no closer to an answer. On Monday, Emma drove the Mustang to work, guilt riding shotgun. During lunch, she tried calling the estate lawyer. Confidential, they said. She spent the afternoon distracted, trying to figure out how to find someone who'd disappeared. Tuesday evening, she attended a town meeting at the community center for the school fundraiser committee. The moment people started arriving, she felt it. That subtle shift when she walked into a room. People smiled, but the smiles didn't reach their eyes. She took a seat near the back. That's when she heard them. 2 women sitting ahead of her, not knowing she was there. "Can you believe Emma Walsh bought that Mustang?" Everyone knows what it meant to Daniel. "I know. I understand she's had a hard time, but you'd think she'd have more awareness. $600 for a car worth $50,000? That's practically stealing." Emma's face burned. She wanted to defend herself, but her voice stuck. Some people only think about themselves. Daniel lost everything. His wife, his business, his father, his home, and she saw a bargain and grabbed it. Shame, really. I expected better from a teacher. The words hit like physical blows. Emma stood abruptly, her chair scraping loud. People turned. She walked out as fast as she could without running. She made it to the Mustang before the tears came. Harsh, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. She cried for Michael, for the debt, for the impossible situation, for the judgment from people who didn't know her struggle. When she finally looked up, she saw something on the floor of the passenger side. A small square of paper, partially tucked under the seat. She reached over and pulled it out. It was a photograph, old and faded. A young man and a small boy, both leaning against the hood of a red Mustang, both grinning. James and Daniel Thornton. She turned it over. On the back, in shaky handwriting. "For whoever finds their second chance, James Thornton, 2023. Emma stared at those words. 2023. James Thornton had written this note last year, before he died, knowing the car would be sold. Second chance. The same year Michael had been diagnosed. The same year her life had fallen apart. She drove home slowly, the photograph beside her. That night, she sat at her kitchen table in darkness and thought about second chances, about judgment, about the strange timing of everything. Wednesday morning, Emma called every ranch in Montana and Wyoming, asking about Daniel Thornton. Most said no. She tried county clerks, social media, nothing. By Thursday, she had to accept she wasn't going to find him. She drove to the diner again. Martha poured her coffee. "I can't find him. I've tried everything." Martha leaned on the counter. "Maybe he needs to be gone for a while. Maybe instead of fighting it, you should think about why he chose you." Emma wanted to believe that, but it felt like rationalization. That night, she sat in the Mustang again, the photograph on the dashboard staring at James's words. "For whoever finds their second chance." She was still there when headlights swept across her mirror. A truck pulled in behind her. Emma's heart stopped. Daniel Thornton stepped out. For a moment, Emma thought she was hallucinating. But no, it was him. Same face, same tired eyes. He walked toward the Mustang carrying a manila envelope. Emma got out on shaking legs. "You came back." Daniel stopped a few feet away. He looked exhausted. "I made it all the way to Nebraska before I realized I couldn't leave without doing this." He held out the envelope. "My father left instructions. I didn't open them until after the sale. I should have opened them first, but I couldn't." Emma took the envelope. "What is it?" "Read it. Then decide what you want to do." They sat at Emma's kitchen table. Emma opened the envelope. Inside were pages of handwritten letter. "Dear Daniel, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you're facing the hardest decision, letting go of the Mustang. I know what this car means to you, but I need you to break your promise never to sell it. Not for me, not for you, but for someone else. In 1973, I was bankrupt, completely broke. I'd lost everything. I was standing in the unemployment line when a stranger handed me an envelope. He said, 'This isn't charity. It's an investment in your future.' Inside was $600. That money saved us. I used it to lease land, bought used equipment, started over. On the day you were born, I bought this Mustang as a symbol of second chances. I made a promise. When I had the means, I would help someone who needed what I'd been given. I'm asking you to honor that promise. Sell this car for exactly $600 to someone who needs a second chance. Someone desperate, someone drowning, someone who needs to believe miracles exist. You'll know them when you see them. Trust your heart. The car isn't the gift. The giving is. Let go of the past. Start fresh." The stranger asked that I help another when I could. I'm asking the same of you, and ask whoever buys this car to pass it forward someday. All my love, Dad. Emma read it twice, tears streaming. Daniel stared at the table. "I watched everyone at that sale, rich collectors seeing dollar signs. Then I saw you. You rode up on a bicycle, sweating, wearing mended clothes. You looked at the Mustang like it represented possibility. When you wrote that check, your hands shook. $620. That's what your account showed. You were spending almost everything on that car." Emma's face burned. "You saw that?" "I saw someone desperate enough to take a chance on something too good to be true. I saw someone who needed hope. So I sold you the car, just like my father asked. Then I drove away because I didn't trust myself not to take it back." He finally looked at her. That car was the last piece of my father I had. Giving it to you was the hardest thing I've ever done. I made it halfway to Montana before I turned around. I needed to know. Did I choose right? Emma stood and brought her stack of bills to the table. Medical bills, collection notices, eviction notice, Michael's death certificate. That's my story, she said. My husband Michael died 8 months ago. Medical costs ate everything. I'm a teacher making $38,000, and I owe $60,000 in medical debt. I have 30 days to come up with $4,000, or I lose my apartment. My car died. Without transportation, I lose my job. Without my job, I lose everything. She pulled out the newspaper clipping. Michael marked this before he died. I rode 8 miles to your sale, knowing I couldn't afford anything, but needing to feel close to him. Then I saw that Mustang at $600. I knew something was wrong, but I was so desperate I convinced myself it was okay. And I've felt guilty every day since. Daniel stared at the bills. When he spoke, his voice was thick. My wife Sarah died 3 years ago. Car accident. I threw myself into work and made stupid decisions. The business collapsed. Then my father got sick. After he died, I had nothing. The estate sale was court-ordered. I was leaving Iowa with $3,000 to start over in Montana doing ranch work at 52 years old. He picked up the eviction notice. So when you ask if you took advantage, no, you didn't. I wasn't selling a car. I was giving someone the gift my father once received. The gift that says, "You're not alone. Your struggle matters." Emma's tears fell freely. I tried to find you to return it. I know. Martha called me. That's when I knew I'd chosen right. He pulled out another envelope. My father left this for whoever bought the car. You should read it now. Emma opened it with shaking hands. Dear friend, if you're reading this, you own my Mustang. You're probably in pain. I know because my son chose you for that reason. The car is just metal. The real gift is this. You are not alone. You are not defined by your worst moment. Second chances come from who we choose to become. In 1973, a stranger saw me when I felt invisible. Believed I was worth saving when I couldn't believe it myself. Accept this gift as an investment in your future. Use this car to rebuild. And when you're angry, when you want to give up, remember that someone believed you were worth this gift. One day, when you've climbed out of the hole, I have one request. Pay it forward. Find someone drowning the way you're drowning now and throw them a rope. Not because they deserve it, but because grace isn't about deserve. The stranger asked that I help another when I could. I'm asking the same of you. Drive this car with joy, and know that people you've never met are rooting for you. With hope, James Thornton. Emma read it 3 times. When she looked up, Daniel was crying too, silent tears on his weathered face. Your father was amazing. He was, and he taught me that the hardest moments are choosing between holding on and letting go. I've been holding on for 3 years, to grief, to guilt, but reading his letter, seeing your face, I finally understood. I can't go back, only forward. Emma's phone rang, her principal. I'm sorry, I need to take this. Emma, this is Principal Davidson. Several community members have expressed concerns about your acquisition of the Thornton vehicle. We're placing you on administrative leave pending review. The school board hearing is Monday at 9. The line went dead. Emma stood frozen. Daniel had heard everything. It's over, Emma said flatly. The car, the job, everything. The whole town thinks I'm a vulture. Even if I keep my job, everyone will always see me that way. And if I lose my teaching license, that's all I have left. I'm not Michael's wife anymore. I'm not financially stable. The only thing I still am is a teacher. And they're taking that too. Daniel's jaw clenched. No, they're not. You heard her. I heard a scared administrator reacting to gossip. But you're not facing that hearing alone. This is my father's legacy, and I won't let small-minded people destroy it. You're exactly who my father wanted to help, and I'll stand in front of that board and explain it. On Monday morning, Daniel picked Emma up at 8:30. They drove to the school board offices in silence. The board consisted of 5 members: Margaret Priestley, the president; Tom Chen, hardware store owner; Father O'Brien; Linda Martinez, a nurse; David Walsh, a farmer. They sat on one side. Emma and Daniel took seats across from them. Thank you for coming, Emma, Margaret began. We've called this meeting to discuss concerns about your purchase of Daniel Thornton's vehicle. Some feel the circumstances were inappropriate. Emma opened her mouth, but Daniel spoke first. Excuse me, Mrs. Priestley, but I'm Daniel Thornton, and I sold Emma that Mustang. If there are concerns, they should be directed at me. Margaret looked surprised. Mr. Thornton, our concern is with Emma's judgment as an educator. Then let me speak to her judgment, Daniel said calmly. Emma saw a car priced at $600. She had no way of knowing its history. She asked if the price was correct, I confirmed it, and she bought it. She acted appropriately. Father O'Brien leaned forward. But surely you understand how this looks. That car was worth significantly more. People question why you'd sell it so cheaply. The answer is simple. I sold it for exactly the price my father asked me to. Before he died, he left specific instructions to sell that Mustang for $600 to someone who needed a second chance. Daniel slid his father's letter across the table. You're welcome to read this. The board passed the letter around. Emma watched their expressions shift from skepticism to understanding. When Margaret finished, she looked at Emma differently. I had no idea. Emma, did you know about this when you purchased? No, Emma said, finding her voice. I learned Friday when Daniel returned. At the time, I only knew I desperately needed transportation to keep my job, and the car was priced within my means. She pulled out her papers. But I'd like to address your concern about judgment. My husband died in February. Medical costs bankrupted us. I've been working while managing overwhelming debt, grief, and the possibility of homelessness. My car died, and without transportation, I'd lose my job. The only thing keeping me afloat. She looked at each board member. When I bought that Mustang, I didn't know its history, but I knew I was drowning. I knew I needed help. And I knew that sometimes we have to accept unexpected grace even when we don't understand it. If that's poor judgment, I'm guilty. But recognizing when you need help and accepting it with gratitude is actually good judgment. Linda Martinez spoke. Emma, the concern was about the appearance. I took advantage of nothing. Emma interrupted, stronger now. I accepted a gift I didn't know was a gift. And when I learned what it meant, I spent 4 days trying to find Daniel to return it. I called ranches across 2 states. I tracked down lawyers. I was ready to give up my only transportation because I couldn't live with causing him more pain. She gestured to Daniel. But Daniel helped me understand that sometimes grace looks like a $600 Mustang, and sometimes accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Silence. Then Tom Chen cleared his throat. Emma, I owe you an apology. My wife called to express concern. We didn't know the full story. Father O'Brien nodded. We judged based on gossip rather than truth. Emma, you've been an excellent teacher. You've handled an impossible situation with grace. We all owe you an apology." One by one, they agreed. Margaret stood and extended her hand. "Emma, your leave is canceled immediately. In fact, we'd like you to develop a program for students dealing with family hardship. Given your experience and judgment, you'd be perfect. It comes with additional compensation." Emma shook her hand, barely believing it. "I'd be honored." After the meeting, Principal Davidson pulled her aside with tears. "Emma, I'm so sorry. I should have defended you from the start. I let fear override my knowledge of your character." Emma and Daniel stood by the Mustang in the parking lot afterward. "Thank you," Emma said, "for coming back, for standing up for me." Daniel smiled. "My father used to say the measure of a man is what he does when no one would know the difference. You tried to return that car even though keeping it was sensible. That told me everything about your character." "So what happens now? You're still going to Montana?" "Tomorrow morning. Job at a ranch outside Bozeman. Small cabin, honest work. It's not what I had, but it's a start." "Will you ever come back?" "Maybe, someday." He paused. "But Emma, if you ever need anything, advice, help, someone who understands, you have my number." As he climbed into his truck, Daniel rolled down the window. "Hey, Emma, my father was right. The car isn't the gift. The giving is. Don't forget to pass it forward when you're ready." Emma watched him drive away. Then she called Martha. "Martha, I want to do something, and I need your help." That afternoon, Emma organized a free community meal at the Cedar Falls Community Center. 50 people came. Emma served spaghetti with Martha's help, no questions asked. During the meal, Emma stood and told them the story: James Thornton's gift in 1973, the Mustang, Daniel's courage, her own desperate situation. By the time she finished, people were crying. "I'm sharing this because if you're struggling with money, grief, feeling invisible, you're not alone. Second chances exist. Unexpected grace exists." An older woman raised her hand. "Emma, what you did took courage. What Daniel did took more. But this, sharing your story and feeding people, that's how change happens." The room applauded. After the meal, a young woman approached. "Ms. Walsh, I'm Jennifer. I teach at the middle school, or I did until I lost my job caring for my sick mother. I've been too ashamed to tell anyone. But hearing your story, I don't know what to do." Emma took her hand. "Come by Riverside Elementary tomorrow. We're starting a program for people facing hardship. And Jennifer, there's no shame in struggling, only in suffering alone." Over the next weeks, Emma threw herself into the Second Chances program, connecting families in crisis with resources and support. The Mustang became a symbol in town, sparking conversations about kindness and grace. 6 months later, Emma received a letter from Bozeman. Inside was a photo of Daniel on horseback, mountains behind him, actually smiling. "Emma, I'm okay. More than okay. The ranch work is hard, but good. I'm sleeping through the night for the first time in years. My father would be proud. Not of what I have, but of who I'm becoming. I heard you started a program at school, helping families in crisis. I'm not surprised. Keep the Mustang as long as you need it. My father's gift wasn't about the car. It was about accepting grace and passing it forward. You're doing both. Maybe our paths will cross again. Until then, keep fighting. Keep believing. With gratitude, Daniel." Emma pinned the letter to her office bulletin board next to James and Daniel's photograph. 2 years later, Emma stood in the parking lot watching the sunset. The debt was gone. The Second Chances program had helped over 100 families. She'd started dating again. The Mustang sat gleaming in its spot. She ran her hand along the hood, feeling its warmth. This car had saved her life. She called Daniel. "Everything's fine," she said. "Better than fine. I wanted to tell you, your father's gift is still giving. Every day it's changing lives. Dozens of people. Maybe hundreds." "That's really good," Daniel said quietly. "And Daniel, I think I'm ready to pass it forward. Really pass it forward. I've been talking about starting a nonprofit, connecting people who have resources with people who need them. Not as charity, but as investment in second chances. Emma, you're making my father's promise into something he never dreamed." "That's exactly right." They talked for an hour. When they hung up, Emma sat in the Mustang and watched stars come out. She thought about Michael, about James Thornton, about Daniel rebuilding in Montana, and she thought about herself, Emma Walsh, who'd been drowning and found a lifeline, who'd been judged and found courage to stand tall, who'd been broken and chose to rebuild for everyone who came after. The engine rumbled to life, and Emma pulled onto Main Street. Tomorrow she'd write grant proposals. Tomorrow she'd begin turning one man's $600 gift into a movement. But tonight, she drove with windows down and radio up, feeling wind in her hair and the freedom of open roads. In the rearview mirror, she swore she saw two figures by the roadside, watching with pride. An old man and his son, both grinning, both knowing their gift found the right person. Emma smiled and drove on into the night, carrying James Thornton's legacy forward into a future bright with possibility. Because that's what second chances do. They don't just save one person. They ripple outward, touching lives we'll never meet, creating hope we'll never see, proving that grace is real and kindness matters, and tomorrow can always be different from today. All it takes is one person willing to believe, one person willing to give, one person willing to accept, and one beautiful 1965 Ford Mustang, cherry red with white racing stripes, carrying its story down American roads forever.